So I'm going to try to talk about Watchdog Man and what his possible origin could be the best that I can, but also let me put it out there that we don't really know anything about Watchdog Man, even currently in the story. He's one of the most mysterious S-Class heroes, up there with, Blast and Drive Knight, but at least we've seen him in action and we have more contextual clues on this guy than the other mysterious ones. But again, this is just going to be speculation for the most part, but I think it's more or less going to be accurate, especially considering what he's based on. And that is Hachiko. So Hachiko is a dog that lived back in the 1920s in Japan who belonged to a university professor. And every day Hachiko would meet the professor at Shibuya Station after his commute home from work. And this went on for about 2 years until one day the professor unfortunately died of a cerebral hemorrhage while at work. And of course, because of this, he wasn't able to meet Hachiko at the station that day. So for the next 9 years after this, Hachiko would return to the station every single day, waiting for his professor to return, but of course he wouldn't, and this went on until Hachiko unfortunately died himself. And because of this, Hachiko's story became legendary in Japan, and to this day he still represents a symbol of loyalty and fidelity. He even has his own statue-esque monument near Shibuya Station where people visit it to this day. So yeah, just like Watchdog Man, they share extreme similarities because, like I said, he is based off of the legend of Hachiko. I mean, Watchdog Man's suit more or less looks just like Hachiko. They share the same color scheme. The only difference really is that he has a red collar, although in some instances of the manga, at least the colorings, he has a black one, similar to what Hachiko presumably had. Also, the whole monument thing, we know that Watchdog Man stays on top of that perch, which is coincidentally also near a train station in Q City. So given all of these similarities, it's very likely that Watchdog Man himself also has a tragic origin / backstory the way that Hachiko does. So I'm going to go into some speculation about what I think it could be. So let's get into it. So first, let's establish Watchdog Man as a person rather than what he came from. So we know that he's super powerful, super fast, super agile. He's just superhuman in every way. More than capable of being an S-Class hero, obviously. And I don't really think this has to do with his backstory or his origin necessarily. I think he was probably born this way. Just, like how some of the other S-Class heroes are just born with this innate talent to be superhuman. Kind of like Metal Bat, Pig God, probably Prairie Prisoner as well. And this is more evident so when we see Dr. Genus in Season 1 looking at his computer screen. I know I always come back to this, guys, but it's pretty interesting. So he's looking at the screen, he sees Pig God, he sees Watchdog Man, he sees Super Ellie Dark Giant, and he sees, of course, Metal Bat. And all of these characters have similarities in that they're like freaks of nature. Dr. Genus further expands upon this hypothesis when he's talking about monstrification with Zombie Man in Chapter 88. He says, similarly, the heroes with the power to oppose these beings, meaning monsters, were also born with potential to become strong and eventually obtain their power through talent or hard work. So I think that means that Watchdog Man is one of these beings, and that regardless of how his life turned out, he likely would have always been as powerful as an S-Class hero. So given that, I think one of the theories, possibly other than the ones I'm going to go to, of course, is that Watchdog Man's parents, which he obviously has since he appears to be a human, and we could just assume that this is a suit and not like his flesh, but his parents realized that he was ultra powerful as a kid, and maybe he was not able to be raised properly because of that, or he was just too much of a hassle for them. So maybe they just left him at a train station one day, in Q City, and they kind of just abandoned him, and he always waited there for them to come back. Similar to, the origin of Big Mom from One Piece. Like I said, that's just one theory, but the main one that I think is likely is that Watchdog Man as a kid, regardless of what his age was, let's just say before the age of 7 or around there, he would probably meet his parents at the train station after they were done work or after he was done school or something, and they would do this similar to how Hachiko and his professor did, until one day, unfortunately, his parents, or whoever his guardians were probably killed by monsters. This also goes into why he is a hero and why he destroys monsters so violently the way that he does and why he's so against them. So after that, it's possible that he kept coming back to the train station because maybe he wasn't aware that they were killed by monsters. Similar to how Hachiko obviously wasn't aware that his owner had died. So maybe he just kept going back there until they eventually just didn't return, and then maybe he found out that they had died by monsters after the fact. But regardless, I think this also ties into why he is so dog-like and why it's like a huge part of his character. I mean, he through and through is pretty much a dog. And while I think that he wasn't entirely always this way, because he does have human traits, he's not like a feral person. He can speak, he has intelligence. So it's possible that when he kept returning to the station, without his parents returning and whatnot, maybe some dogs, like a pack of dogs, like found him and they kind of just took him under their wing. Something like that, or maybe he was wandering around. There's, like I said, a whole bunch of possibilities. But I more or less think that after his parents had died, or whatever happened to them, he was raised by dogs. And that's it. That's how he became the Watchdog Man that he is. Like, how he learned all of the crazy abilities that he has. And maybe that's how he was able to work on his sense of smell, which I'm sure it was always adept, because, we're going off of the theory that he was born with crazy inherent potential. So maybe he just was able to adapt that based off of him and his upbringing with these dogs. And of course, that's how he learned his fighting style and everything that he does. And maybe that's just why he wears the suit, so that he can like fit in with them. And maybe it's also just a part of his hero persona and the costume that he wants to wear. But a lot of people think that, the suit is possibly like a part of him, and it's why he has his powers, similar to like the origin of Phoenix Man. While it is a possibility, I think that would be a little redundant. And like I said, it's plausible, but I think this suit more or less is just him trying to fit in with the family that adopted him. But we also don't really see any dogs around Watchdog Man, or we don't really ever see him interacting with dogs. We don't really see him interact with anyone, honestly. So it's possible that after he was raised by these dogs and trained by them and learned his Watchdog Man ways, they might have been killed by monsters as well. So that kind of just doubles down on his tragic origin and backstory. And maybe that's why he doesn't really get close to anyone or has any followers or anything like that, because he just fears that they're going to be killed. And this also plays into why he is the way that he is, because he's real sullen, has a bored expression. He really hardly ever shows any kind of emotions. And of course, there's the theory out there. Some people think that he removed this limiter, and it's possible. It's just all speculation, and your theory is just as valuable as mine at this point. But I think it's likely that he is this way just because of how tragic his life has been, and it just kind of turned him into this emotionless dog man. And as for him being the sole protector or just really loyal to Q City, I think it just ties into the dog mentality that he has, him being born there, but him also seeing that they need a protector because, as we found out from exposition from the Hero Association executives, that Q City is a hot spot for monsters. There's a lot of activity there, so he probably feels that he needs to take it upon himself to defend this city, because more or less no one else is really going to do it, or at least he feels that he's the only one capable of doing it. And also, it goes back to Hachiko's loyalness and whatnot. So yeah, that's what I think Watchdog Man's origin is. And while it might not be exactly that, I do think it's probably going to line up more or less with that theme, given the whole Hachiko thing and how he's all sullen and, listless and whatnot. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know what you think about Watchdog Man's origin. What do you think's going on with him? Do you think he has like a Phoenix Man type of thing going on? Do you think he removed his limiter? Or do you think I'm kind of accurate with what I think his origin is? If you also liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon, gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.